Hey folks, welcome back. Time for part 3 of my extended look at the John Carter of Mars role-playing system from Modiphius Entertainment. So previously we looked at the core game slipcase set, which includes the core rulebook and the Phantom of Mars campaign edition. Then we looked at 3 era supplement books, and now finally we're going to check out the big mess of accessories that I got when I bought almost the entire game line. As I mentioned before, I don't have the airship tile set, but I believe I got everything else that was available at the time from the massive 75% off sale that Modiphius had on all this stuff. So let's take a look at what we got. So first off, we'll look at some cards here. We have this character and token deck. So bring Barsoom to life. See the famed heroes and strange creatures that inhabit the dying world. 52 character and creature art cards, 3 narrator reference cards, all with card backs for threat, momentum, and luck, are sure to make your John Carter of Mars campaigns come to life. Wonderful. So we'll take a quick look at these guys. Some of these characters you will undoubtedly remember from seeing them in the core book and as they evolved over the era supplements. We have Dejah Thoris, this yellow card back here. We have John Carter, of course, Morris Kajak, Silensis Ol, Tars Tarkus. That's a great image. I like that. Very aggressive. Carthoris, who I believe is the son of Dejah and John. Then we have Isis. We have Matai Shang, one of the White Martians, Shodar, Thuvia of Pitarth, Tara of Helium, Lana of Gathol, Tardus Mors, so these are all major characters. Bar Komos, Thoth, so this is a creature that you can ride, as you can see. Sorak, another creature you might encounter in the wilds of Barsoom. Sith, which is a creepy-looking insectoid thing. Fal Sivas, so I guess that's a more minor character, perhaps. Kantos Khan, Shaja and Vala Dia's body, that's interesting. Ulysses Paxton, perhaps another Earthborn. Hor Vastus, Red Martian, Zat Aras, Urjan, Kulan Tith, Dar Taurus, Korsan, Gahan of Gathol, Rastavas, he's a mad scientist type, as we can see. Solan, Talu, Sola, Tarids. I'm not sure what's going on there. He looks to be in a fairly meditative posture, maybe some kind of religious dude. Thuvan Din, Darcine, seems like another creature. Wula the Kalot, that's one of those multi-legged creatures from the core rulebook, I believe. Malagor, so some kind of flying creature. Tal Hajus, reclining in a throne there. Dakkova, Horton Gur, Arbok, Orluk, a quite stout-looking armored creature. Martian spiders, far too many eyeballs for my taste. Zitidar, not sure whether that's a reference to the green Martian on the back there or the creature itself. Skeleton Men of Morgor, the Jupiter people. Apt, very large beast you don't want to mess with. The Banth, the multi-legged lion-type creature. Synthetic Men, with grotesque faces. Plant Men. The Ulcio, another creature. White Apes, these are massive guys. They're depicted on the front of the slipcase set, actually. Cillian, some underwater beast who seems to be about to take a leg off this guy. And then we have some handy character reference cards. So we've got some quick stats for useful NPCs that you might use to throw into a scene. Assassins, benevolent leaders, corrupt warlords, duelists, gladiators, green Martian warriors. So it has their main stats plus some talents they could have as well. Guardsman, holy priest, officer, panthan, pirate / raider, royal advisor, scientist / engineer, or young noble, and then a little reference for the racial adjustments to different stats depending on the racial background. So if you wanted to have, an officer from the green, Earthborn background, maybe we're going to add 3 to his might, stuff like that. Racial talent should also be added to characters such as Forearm for War for Green Martians and Leaps and Bounds for Earthborn. So that's a handy reference. Also gives you a way to show players at the table who they're up against. Sort of visuals, I think, can always help immersion. the card backs now, we do have several different card backs here. So these are meant to track your momentum, threat, and luck points. Let's see. Got a lot of these yellow ones here. And these guys as well. So I'm not sure which is meant to represent which, to be honest with you. Perhaps another look at the core book would be needed to work out which is which. And this guy really feels out of place and should be amongst others of the same color. But anyway, there we go. So, very useful, kind of dual-purpose set of cards for the GM to use during campaigns and scenarios. It's very handy. During the sale, it cost basically nothing, so well worth getting. Now we have a landscape art location deck, again to help with immersion. Explore the beautiful, terrifying, and wondrous landscapes of the Red Planet with these 52 landscape art cards. With amazing vistas of the planet on the front and evocative descriptive text on the back, you'll truly transport your players to Barsoom when you use these to enhance your John Carter of Mars campaigns. Fantastic. So, let's see what we got in here. These are nicely wrapped up. And there should be a little bit I can grab onto somewhere to open these without too much incident, hopefully. There we go. Come on. Doesn't want to quite cooperate. Alright, that'll do. A bit messy, but, you know. There we go. Alright. So, what do we got here? Barsoom from the air. So I guess you're approaching by airship. That can kind of help set the scene. The airships look really cool in this game, by the way. And on the back, oh, there's a nice descriptive bit of text here that the GM can use. I'm not going to bore you by reading all that out, but the airship keys where you can dock up. And yeah, so these are docks teeming with activity. Then the Forbidden Land. We've got a yellow Martian, well, two yellow Martians look like, facing against an apt, rather gigantic beast. So this is about the sheer brilliance of the glaciers, vast expanse of ice, and distant mountains glittering like powdered diamond. Very cool. The Ghost of Throxus seems to be beset by banths here. What's this all about? Everywhere Barsoom's landscape is a relic of the past. The Northern Hemisphere is no exception. Throxus, the mightiest of Barsoom's 5 oceans, covered the planet, and its phantom still haunts Barsoom. So this used to be an ocean that dried up. And now you have the Carrion Caves with some horrible things feasting on corpses. The cave mouth yawns, exhaling an unpleasant sigh ripe with putrefaction. Lovely. Then we have the Pit of Chanath. Okay. The echoing roar of the river fills the colossal cave. All around, the rock sweats coldly. Well, these are pretty nice, evocative descriptions. Handy for the GM, certainly. A land of blood and ice. So it looks like 2 Earthborn wrestling with this beastie here. So again, we're in a snow environment here. Blood splatters the snow, crimson on white. The beast's howl thunders in the narrow frozen defile, cracking the ice with his fury. This is a land of blood and ice. Cool. Then we have an airship's deck. Looks like a boarding action in full swing here. The airship heels to port, striking the enemy vessel a grinding blow. Wood splinters, metal shrieks, locked together like lovers. The 2 ships become one curve of sweeping deck. Wow, definitely setting a scene there. Arena of Death with an exclamation mark. So we got a green Martian and what seems to be an Earthborn there. Like an enormous crater, the arena appears punched into the earth. Its tiers of seats gather at the rim like ejected matter, climbing in ranks to shadow the killing floor. Excellent. Anthor's Avenue of Keys. We've got some green Martians there, striking from higher ground against a few red Martians. From the empty plaza, a broad thoroughfare leads directly to the ancient quays lined with monoliths. The melancholy silence of this vast, redundant seaport. All right. The city of Morbus. So it looks like we've got some synthetic men here, and they're about to be jumped by this crazed-looking character there. The city is an anomaly, surrounded by the filthy morass of the Tunulian marshes, with their sluggish, viscous waterways, mudflats, and their evil-smelling reed beds. It appears pristine. Interesting. But filled with some rather squalid beasties. We've got the ruins of Thark. That's quite picturesque. Jutting from the red sands, the ruins of a magnificent antique city stand white against Barsoom's cobalt sky. Lovely. Plenty to discover in those ruins, of course. The ravines of Mars. We've got some kind of ape creature. The ravine cuts a jagged gash through the plateau. Keen red rocks protrude like spears, snagging cloaks and harnesses, slicing flesh. There we go. Savage Barsoom. Okay. Oh, yeah, there seems to be an arm being sliced off there. So that is fairly savage. This is no place to fight a battle. The ground shelves unevenly, descending in a stairway of precarious ledges and slopes. Warfare on Barsoom is never simply a case of one fighting man against another. It requires an awareness of the planet itself, its immeasurable age and eroded geology, the vagaries of its terrain, its capricious air currents, and the sudden dangers of its tedious ruins. Tedious? Teetering ruins. Yeah, much better. War in the air. Wow, somebody jumping onto a neighboring airship, it seems like. Extremely brave and or stupid. The sapphire sky is a battlefield. Mighty navies ranked in airships discharge their radium cannonades. The air screams with projectiles. Fantastic. The mountains of Torcus. So we've got a couple of guys here with having dismounted their thoat, looking off into the distance. Perhaps this is some kind of inhabitable area here. Looks like there's some windows or portals. Oddly geometric, the mountains of Torcus rise almost vertically from bare open country. They resemble the building blocks of a gargantuan child fresh from its egg, or a soaring vertical city in which one dwelling is piled upon another without thought for space or sanity. If there is a population here, it is furtive and devious, moving invisibly through its darkened chambers, or stealing mutely across its open courts. Cool. These are really giving a great atmosphere. I like that. They give you the feeling of patrolling the surface of a savage world. In the shadow of the airship. Okay. The airship drifts soundlessly, its motors stilled, navigating a low incline on a favorable thermal. Thuria and Cluros, the moons of Mars, are absent, leaving a scattering of stars to light the sky. So it seems like the approach of an airship in a stealthy way in the darkness of night. And we have Among the Ruins. Interesting. A lot of these white-colored ruins here. The workmanship is exquisite, no doubt manufactured in helium or Patarth. The monocular field glass brings the citadel into focus. Clearly the building was once beautiful. Its white walls are still filigreed with gold high up, beyond the grasp of any avaricious green Martian. Cool. Greater Helium. Okay. Seems like two colleagues, or perhaps battle-hardened friends, meeting. The pinnacle of red Martian culture and power, Greater Helium gathers around a mile-high scarlet tower. The city is graceful and sophisticated, glorious and proud. Cool. Barsoomian Farms. Interesting. What are these big towers there? I guess storehouses of some sort. There's an airship flying off in the distance as well. Like a flower blooming in the desert, the farmland brings a riot of color to an otherwise drab range of red stone and ochre moss. Among the field's sturdy enclosures house small herds of thoats, likely bred for their meal but producing valuable fertilizer. Interesting. The frozen army of Panar. Well, that's pretty creepy. He seems suitably shocked. Look at his face is like a perfect O of surprise. The horror begins at the ice wall. Men, numberless and naked, are frozen into the barrier. Perfectly preserved, they stare sightlessly from the wall, their mouths open in a rictus of pain, their hands twisted into claws by the cold agony of their imprisonment. Wow. Fairly unpleasant, I have to say. The domed city of Marantina. I like that. We've got kind of a shield set up here. Beautiful mountain ranges behind. The domed city rises from the Okarian ice fields like a bubble in a sea of foam. It's resplendent in the sunlight, its crystal shell unmarred by snow or scratch. In the cold waste, the city seems impossibly lush. On that, it does indeed. The court of Issus. So that was the goddess of death, I believe, that we saw in one of the era supplements. The court of Issus. All the riches of Barsoom are hoarded here. Within its walls of burnished gold, columns in the likeness of trees support a ceiling jeweled with constellations picked out in diamond, ruby, sapphire, and emerald. So very opulent, I must say. The Guardian of the North. We've got an immense watchtower here. Again, it looks like there's some airships plying the skyways off in the distance there. Striking up from Barsoom's magnetic pole, the Guardian of the North spears the sky. In the bright Arctic light, its ominous black shaft inscribes a fell shadow on the landscape, sweeping Kadabra and his precincts like the gnomon of a malevolent sundial. Interesting. Hallways run with blood. Okay. It's like a black Martian with some fallen foes as he grasps onto something or other. The palace is wrapped in darkness. Folds of shadow run thick along its corridors and gather in its unlit chambers. 2 guards are dead beneath the sun in splendor. They've been struck down decisively and silently, without a struggle. Well done him. Then we have the city of Zodanga, with some glorious airships again, piercing the sky. Fear or Prudence built Zodanga. Its walls, constructed from monolithic blocks of shimmering carborundum, reach 75 sofads in height. They house a warren of barracks, magazines, and armories. Very cool. I do like that they use Martian units in this game, so you kind of get used to that aspect of Barsoomian culture. Makes it feel just a bit more alien. Aboard the cruiser. Well, they better watch out for this dude here. Not paying attention. The deck shifts as the cruiser's buoyancy tanks lift her into Barsoom's clear skies. She's a fine vessel, and the sudden exhilaration of flight makes her seem all the more wondrous. Alright. Warhoon. Got some green Martians. He's looking none too pleased at whatever's going on here. Few of Barsoom's ancient cities have fallen as far as Warhoon. Its fine walls are stained black with smoke. Several of its towers have been gutted by fire, and filth lines its thoroughfares. Wow. Okay, then we have Lesser Helium. We had Greater Helium in one of the other cards. We've got some blue-looking people here. Lesser Helium's yellow tower is as tall as its red sister in Greater Helium, though more delicate and finely tapered to affirm the city's lower status. It soars skyward over one of Barsoom's most refined urban centers. Lovely. Sounds like a decent place to live amongst all the savagery of the wild parts of Barsoom. Then we have Kobol. And as incongruous as a wart on the bosom of a red princess, okay, the bombed-out shell of Kobol disfigures a clean breadth of dead sea bottom. Since the city was razed by Helium's navy, its surviving population has struggled to restore their city. Now, there is a lot of war in this setting, that's for sure. Lothar. Looks like we've got some psionic activity going on here. The forest ends at a treeless plain on which a walled city rears its palaces and temples. Unlike most red Martian cities, which are of white stone, the slender spires and minarets of Lothar form a brightly colored kaleidoscope. Interesting. Okay, then we have On Mighty Wings. So definitely a warrior atop a flying beast. At this height, Barsoom appears like a sheet of parchment, aged to a dusky amber and crumpled carelessly. Written on and written over for millions of years, its surface is punctuated with the wreckage of fallen civilizations. Wow. I love these evocative descriptions, I have to say. The beauty of Ptarth. Ptarth's true beauty is most apparent at twilight. As the sun sinks beyond Duhor and the sky darkens to purple, the city sparkles with myriad lights. Its palaces, shops, and houses rise silently on their metal shafts, and for a magic moment, it appears that the whole city is ascending to the heavens. Wonderful. And from that we go into the pits, where it looks like horrific battle is taking place. Dimly lit by low-powered radium bulbs, the pit are a warren of cells, antechambers, narrow passageways, and sudden deceptive ramps. The dirt floor pounded flat by eons of stumbling feet show the marks of other prisoners. The paths lead not to a way out, but to the bones of their authors lying dull in the murk. Wow, okay. The River Iss. There's some spectacular statuary there. The river flows without a ripple, an uncanny serpentine waterway that has carved out a deep meandering valley, unhurried and unobstructed for eons. Okay, then we have Tunol. Is that guy flying? Looks like it. Isolated by geography and the obsessive distrust of its people for their fellow Barsoomians, Tunol is nevertheless an attractive city, clean and ordered. Tunol favors a bare, simple style which contrasts with that of other Martian cities. Oh yeah, the laughter of tiny figures wheeling on gossamer wings above its spires, their equilibrium motors propelling them through the sky. Well, that sounds a fairly wonderful way to spend your time. The dead of Manitor. The dead do not lie down in Manitor. Instead, they stand in full regalia in palaces and temples, villas and estates, their blank eyes regarding a city thinly populated by nobles and slaves. Taxidermy is Manitor's peculiarity, and its ghoulish preservation of corpses and a semblance of life defines its character. There we go. Oh, now we have one of those giant ape things in the City of Horrors. From Horrors, the proud capital, the Overvar's calculated lines of latitude and longitude, dividing the planet to better navigate its 5 oceans. It seems an act of hubris now that's mapping over a world over which they had no real control. And now the seas are gone. Okay, I dropped one here. The Dead Sea Bottoms. Between the continents of yellow-orange moss, lines of footprints lead straight across the flat sea bottom. Strands of Mantalia have been shouldered aside, and their broken trunks weep thin milk into the hungry earth. And the Artolian Hills. Lovely hillscape there, with one of the moons of Mars lurking in the sky there. The ground rises steeply, ascending through a chain of low foothills to a series of plateaux. These tablelands form a prelude to high bluffs leading upwards to a curtain of sheer-faced slopes. Okay, Ugor. Looks like, are those piles of bones? What's going on there? The land has been scoured clean of all vegetation save for some blanched, withered weeds. Oh, okay, nibbled to mere stumps. Not even the hardy yellow moss that covers so much of Barsoom remains. It's a desolate realm whose devastation blights the spirit. Yeah, it doesn't sound great. Korad. Away from the redundant harbor, the baking streets converge at a plaza cluttered with the debris of a green horde on the move. Okay, watch out for those guys, I guess. They seem to be leaping right into battle as we speak. Then we have the Kaolian Forest. It's a nice, vibrant, colorful picture there. We've got some banths coming in, yellow Martian climbing hell for leather to get away. A tropical forest on Barsoom, like an emerald on the breast of the Dead Sea Bottoms. It's an astounding sight. It steams, filling the jungle glades with sweet-scented vapors. Cool. The Sea of Omeon. Look at that vibrant color in the sky there. Enclosed in a cavern of titanic proportions, the Sea of Omeon stretches beyond eyesight until its margins are lost to night and distance. The vaulting ceiling above is similarly obscured. Wow. Okay, then we have Exum. It's a beautiful picture there. Looks like some kind of power generation machinery. Clustered around a central core of spires shaped like fantastically elongated fungi, Exum resembles no other red Martian outposts. Its buildings ramble, lacking the clearly defined squares and courts of larger settlements. They flow into one another with an almost liquid quality. It thrums with energy. One certainly gets that vibe from this picture. Guli on Ompt. Sinking slowly into a mire, the village of Guli is a huddle of shabby grass huts thatched with the slimy reeds common to the Tunolian marshes. So I guess this is the home of the Gulians, the kangaroo people. And yes, we can see their kangaroo legs there. The Gulf of Torquas. It looks like a nighttime mountain trek going on there. Like a grand processional way, the broad, flat-bottomed valley links Torquas in the east to Xanator in the west. As of most Barsoom's Dead Sea Bottom, it is carpeted abundantly with ochre moss. There we go. Now we have another city of Jama. Coral pink in the sunlight, the castle of Jama is an oasis of beauty in its sequence of low, unremarkable hills. Encircled by a formidable wall, its elegant flat-roof structures are separated by open courts and impeccable gardens. Beautiful. The prison isle of Shador. We've got some more flyers there, with warriors atop them. Glistening wetly in the phosphorescent darkness, the island is little more than a barren bar of rock, rising out of the Omean Sea like the humped back of a prehistoric reptile. Cool. Then Xanator, we've got some Thoat-riding green Martians armed with long rifles of some sort. The approach to the city from the sea must have been a wondrous sight. Even now, its beacon tower recalls the glories of a bygone age, its corroded heights no less imposing in obsolescence. I gotta say, the makers of this game have a clear reverence for the source material. I feel a lot of passion in these descriptions and the accompanying art. We've got the Great Tenulian Marshes. Some kind of strange beast with armored carapaces. The last dregs of a wide, shallow sea, the Great Tenulian Marshes reach the horizon. Their blank immensity is broken by low, rocky islands that rise from the swamp like rotten teeth from a leprous jaw. Thin, slow-moving rivers and muddy lakes form a labyrinth of waterways green with algae. All right. Then we have the Valley D'Or. Looks somewhat forbidding there with some plant men coming in for the attack. The tunnel under the Golden Cliffs ends at a dramatic rocky archway, disgorging the river into a tremendous lake. As if cupped in a giant's palm, the fabled Lost Sea of Korus is bordered by the looming Ots Mountains, their snow-capped peaks stark against the azure sky. There we go. So now we're back to Barsoom from the air. So that's a little peek at the 52 different location cards. I think these are really excellent, actually. Definitely would help set the scene. You've got some great descriptive text for the GM to read out or to improvise their own variations of. Again, I really feel like there's a lot of passion in this game. I don't know how much, how well it sold or anything like that. The fact that they had this massive sale suggests it didn't do extremely well. But, I think it's a really worthy product. It's just got a huge amount of effort and comprehensiveness put into it. So next we'll take a quick look at the dice here. Now you can see I've got 3 different types. I think these were all the types that were available at the time. I don't know if there's others for, yellow Martians or whatever, but these were the ones I could get hold of. And they do just pop open, I believe. Don't think I have to cut anything to get at these, but famous last words. No, there we go. So these are the Zodanga dice set. So each set comes with a couple d20s and 4 damage dice. They have a nice solid feel to them. Nothing super special. The numbers are all nicely engraved, not cheaply printed or anything like that. So if we look at these guys, now, I guess I'm not sure what the symbol is actually replacing, because the 20 is there, and there's this, I guess that's a 7. So, presumably that's hang on. Is that a 7? I don't see anything else that could be a 7. It's a little bit odd because it looks like it could be a 1. But, what really would make sense is that the 1 is replaced by the symbol, because a 1 is a critical success, right? That's the lowest number you can roll. This is a roll under system. So I'm going to guess that is, in fact, a 1. And if you roll the symbol, then you've got something good going on. Now for the damage dice, so we've got this lovely kind of marbled red pattern. Some of these faces are blank. Then we've got ones with just an effect. We have ones with damage. And yeah, so typically you're going to roll several dice for damage. We saw that in the core rulebook. You're often rolling 3 or 4 dice for damage from weapons. So say if I were to roll all 4, I've got nothing here. I've got 4 damage and no effect, so the special effect of the weapon wouldn't trigger. On the other hand, I might end up with this, where I've got very little damage, but I do trigger an effect, which actually could be very important to the battle, depending on what the weapon actually does. So that's the basics of how the dice work. We'll just take a quick look at the other colors here in close-up. So this is the Helium dice set, which has a white coloration to it, kind of marbled with a bit of yellow off-white. And once again, we have our 2 d20s with the deceptively, with the 7 that looks deceptively like a 1. Looks like the very same symbol to mark our critical successes. But the color is, I don't know, a little bit sickly, a little bit pussy. I'm not sure if that's what they were going for, but, it doesn't look bad or anything, but it's, I don't know, slightly off-putting compared to the attractive reds and greens of the others. Again, you know, the quality feels absolutely identical to the others. The faces on the die are identical, so besides the color difference, there's really not much to report about these. Put those back for now, and then finally we have the Thark dice set. These definitely have, to my eye, the most attractive color scheme. I really like this kind of dark, almost malachite-like green. Very good looking to the eye. If I could only open the package, that would be even more excellent. Come on. Oh. There we go. Alright. Yeah, they look even better outside of the package, actually. So it's a really nice, vibrant green. There's a little bit of a marbling between a lighter green and a darker green, so that's what really gives me that kind of malachite vibe. You know, the numbers are really easy to distinguish with that nice kind of bright white against this mixture of greens. Once again, we've got the same image there for the critical rolls. And then the damage dice look equally attractive. You know, very easy to read at a glance. Definitely, if there were to be another sale, I would go back and buy some more sets of these green guys. I think the Thark dice set is definitely the best looking of the three. But, you know, given I had this idea in mind of basically buying the entire line as much as possible, I just bought every dice set as well, because you don't really know what you're going to like the most until they show up. Next, we'll have a look at the map of Barsoom. Now, this should just be a much more significantly large version of the map that we've seen in the end papers of the books themselves. However, I don't want to bend this too much during the opening here, so I'm slightly pulling back from the camera so that I can pull the plastic off a bit carefully. There we go. They did add a piece of cardboard here as backing so that it wouldn't get warped in shipment. That's always nice. Okay. Get rid of the plastic. Now, what surprised me is there's actually two bits in here. So we have this, which appear to be some stickers. It's kind of interesting. So I guess as you go through a campaign, you know, you might explore and find new settlements, and you can use those stickers to kind of mark your progress with what you might find, different kinds of ruins, or, you know, yeah, farms, all that kind of stuff. Map itself looks really nice, and it's actually much more convenient to have this rather than, you know, the map by necessity in the actual books is cut off at the middle. So it's harder to get that kind of overall view. But here we get to see really everything. So we have the map of one hemisphere here from the North Pole to the south. And we've got all the major settlements kind of shown here, many of which were shown in the location cards as well. You know, they're colored by accordance to the kind of controlling interest of that city. Then we have the South Pole down here, where we have the Temple of Isis, Omian, and Canyon Village. Then we've got the Northern Ice Cap, where we have much of the Okar presence, the Yellow Martian presence up there. And then we have the other hemisphere here, where we've got the sort of emptied out seas. We have the Kaolian Forest. Looks like to be the largest forest on the planet, certainly bigger than the Helium Forest on this side. And yeah, so a lot of interesting geographical features to work with. You know, they've clearly, you know, really delved deep into the source material and worked out, you know, what are the interesting places to do adventures in this world, and how can we convey that really effectively in a compact way with the map. And the sort of the vibe with which it's been drawn, I think, is excellent. The cartography really, it's entertaining to look at, but also clear to read. I do like as well that they've got a reference here kind of showing, you know, where we are in the solar system relatively. So there's Barsoom, that's moons of Thuria and Chloros. Then we've got Josum and Luna, which is Earth and the Moon. Then we have Rasum, Mercury, and Kosum, Venus, all of which can be visited if you want during the course of an extended campaign. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, beautiful map. It's not the same super high quality as the maps, say, from Alien by Free League, but it's definitely by no means a disappointment. Very nice to look at. And I do really like the style with which they've drawn those maps. Next we have the tile set. This is the Ruins of Korad tile set. So there's a bit of advertising copy on the back here. Prepare to battle dangerous creatures and uncover the hidden secrets in the once magnificent, now ruined city of Korad. Blah, blah, blah. 4 full-size double-sided tiles, 4 half-size double-sided tiles, designed for use with 32mm scale miniatures. So I guess if you want to do the skirmish game, which is described in the campaign book, then you can go ahead and use these for that, or you could just use these to give players a sense of space and make battles a little bit more tactical when you're actually in the midst of an RPG campaign as well. And of course, there's nothing stopping you using the skirmish system to run, say, larger scale battles in an RPG campaign. So I really like that they've included that system in one of the RPG core books, in fact, in the slipcase, because certainly there are plenty of creative ways you could use that skirmish system to enhance an RPG campaign as well. So we'll take a quick flick through these. So, again, really nicely drawn here. So this looks to be, we've got a throne room, perhaps, with some statues of guards that have been toppled. Yeah, we can clearly see that this was a once great sort of space that has been sort of torn to shreds by the ages, possibly by people looting as they pass through. On the other side, we have something a little bit more pedestrian. We've got we've got some more statues here. We've got some obstacles in the way. Some looks like some armaments on the walls. We've got swords and long arms. So I guess this was kind of a hangout for the soldiery, perhaps, maybe the royal guardsmen. Here we have, I'm not sure what's going on here, actually. Interesting. Again, we have some fallen statues. We've got a little bit of an elevation change here, which could make battles a bit more interesting. Got some overturned tables, a bit of wrecked sort of tapestries on the side. And on the other side, we've got quite a lot of obstacles here to make battle perhaps a bit more interesting. A number of columns lining what must have been some kind of important monument here in the center. I don't know if there would have been another statue there, perhaps, some kind of, if it has religious significance, who knows. Now we have the double-sided half-size tiles, so these are kind of just corridors. A lot of wreckage here in this one with a torn-up red carpet. On the flip side, we've got an exterior view here with some burned-out skeletons. That's always nice, and that's clearly a Green Martian because he's got 4 arms. And this one here could be an Earthborn or one of the other Martian races, perhaps. Then this guy here, we've got another corridor, again with wreckage piled all over the place. And on the flip side, we have a balcony. So if you reach an upper level of the ruins of Korad, you might use this for a bit of an overlying view. Then we have another corridor. But none of them are drawn the same. They've all got different sets of wreckage and different kinds of destruction. So that's kind of nice attention to detail. We have a different exterior entrance here. This statue has been ripped asunder. That one still stands mostly intact, but no rotting corpses in this one, so that's something, I guess. Here we have another corridor. This red carpet suggests it might be heading somewhere important, or would have been at the time. Oh, that's interesting. Here we have some kind of stairs leading down and some kind of observational telescope type instrument. Very cool. So you could construct a multi-level dungeon of sorts with these tiles. And now here, this is interesting, we've got what looks to be an egg. If you remember from the main books, the Barsoomians, except for Earthborn, they all reproduce by egg laying. So perhaps this was a place where eggs were to be laid and looked after, could be. We've got a few Green Martian corpses laid out here. You can see from their multiple pairs of arms. It's very intriguing. On the flip side, we've got a multi-layer battlefield here. We've got kind of an upper layer, which is connected to potentially other tiles. And down below, we have, there's an exit here. So you could potentially have some long-distance combat occurring between the upper and lower layers. And likewise here, we've got two of those sort of upper layer connecting bits. That's intriguing. Did I look at the other side of this? Yes, I did. That was the eggs. Okay. The other side of this one. Huh, interesting. So this must be some sort of sleeping quarters. We've got some, look like beds of sorts, maybe. Some trunks for holding personal belongings. Again, we've got some arms here on the walls, so perhaps a sleeping place for guardsmen or soldiers of some kind. Yeah, and then we're back to the start here with the throne room. So pretty cool. Collection of different environments there. Certainly would add some variety to your skirmish battles or to give a sense of place if you're plundering the ruins of Korad. I mentioned this one, in fact, in the first video, so I won't go much into this. Basically, this is just a much cheaper option for having a full rules reference. If you are a player of the game, but you don't want to invest in all the stuff, you can buy this player's guide. So it allows you, everything you need to know for player characters and all the core rules, all the stuff about momentum and luck and so forth, and all the rules about combat and actions you can take. It's a nice, small, perfect bound volume with plenty of full color in there, lots of scene setting artwork and examples, so quite a bit packed into small size. Altogether, it is, let's see, 149 pages, so it's really good value, and even better value at the sale price, which was something ridiculous like £2.50. And finally, last but not least, we have the Narrator's Toolkit. This looks to be an exceptionally thick example of a Game Master screen. Alright. There we go. So, we have a booklet, we have the Game Master screen itself, and this is presumably the advertising copy on the back. Yeah, full color, 4-panel narrator screen, new rules for travel, and 32-page booklet of plot hooks and inspirations, and yada yada. So we'll flip through the booklet first quickly. What do we got here? Welcome back to the Red Planet. So we've got tips about crafting adventures in John Carter, different types of bad guys, dangerous beasts and where to find them, some cultural information. Burroughs was big on rational, or at least somewhat rational, explanations for most events and phenomena. Then we have adventure generation. So you can even generate the title of your adventure. You can generate character types, archetypes, locations, objects, beasts to encounter. Then there's an adventure generator. So this allows narrators to generate adventures for John Carter of Mars. They can be used for the whole thing, with every aspect generated randomly or only for parts where inspiration is needed. So you can talk about where you begin in the adventure, what the call to adventure is, generate some narrator characters. When suddenly something happens, you can generate monsters to encounter. Then you can introduce an overriding plot element and the purpose of that plot. You can generate some antagonists, how many of them, who is the antagonist, and the nature of the antagonist, and how they want to execute their dastardly plot. And then what can go wrong during your adventure. That's very cool. So you can really just use this book to generate something completely out of whole cloth. And given that the core books, as I've said, really contain a lot of information useful for narrators, like loads of prefab characters and NPCs and everything, with that combined with these random tables, I mean, it'd be pretty easy to get a game of this off the ground. Then we got some narrator character generators here. So generating a concept. generating races, peculiarities of the characters, a bunch of tables of peculiarities to work with. Then we have an example of an adventure generation, very useful to see how it works in practice. Then some adventure hooks, depending on race and cultures involved. So Red Martian, hooks, Green Martians, Okar, Firstborn, Earthborn, Mixed Heritage. And then hooks based on character archetypes. So we've got some airship officers, or assassins, duelists, envoys, explorers, fugitives, gladiators, guides, healers, panthons, rogues, scientists, and soldiers and spies. And then some new rules for travel. So what do we got here? Travel across Barsoom is often exciting, with breathtaking scenery and new discoveries over every horizon. It's also perilous, with numerous threats from raiders, green Martian hordes, ravenous beasts, and ruined and dead places filled with ancient danger. Alright, so there's some information about travel time, when to make travel tests. Basic travel test being might plus reason, with difficulty depending on the type of terrain. Then some complications that can happen. Progress during a journey represented by a special resource called the travel pool. Okay. Different complications that can happen during travel, different obstacles. Then what happens at the end of the journey, whether you're early, late, or too late. And optional rules on withdrawing points from the travel pool. Pretty cool. And then we have large-scale actions. So working on a different scale with large-scale conflicts through military, security forces, working with momentum as a group stress and afflictions, group talents, leaderless actions. Oh, that's pretty cool. Large-scale conflicts and how they work. And then we have some sample groups for large-scale play. The Red Kingdom, the Green Horde, the Okar Nation, the Firstborn Pirates, White Martian Enclave. So you could really do like full-on war between nations with these rules, albeit in a simplified way. Then we can use these tables to generate authentic-seeming Barsoomian species. So body type, size, number of limbs, skin type, special features, and their reputation. And then we have some NPC sheets as well. Very handy. Well, that's actually, there's quite a lot of useful stuff packed into those 32 pages, I gotta say. And then finally, the screen itself, you can see it's really, really thick, high-quality cardboard. It's in portrait orientation. Some people prefer landscape, but I personally don't mind portrait. I kind of prefer it. I often don't have that much table space. You can see that the panels themselves on the outside include the map of Barsoom, which is super handy. It's really nice to have, actually. And then on the inside, of course, we have multiple pages of reference tables for the GM. So we have a simple conversion if you want to use regular D6s for your damage and effect dice. You've got the damage done by different kinds of hazards. The main qualities you can have on weapons and equipment. We've got difficulty increases from different conditions like weather, social conditions, lighting. Difficulty increases from terrain. Then we have different ways to spend momentum, different ways to spend luck, and ways to upgrade your character using XP. Then we have the functioning of different attributes, their descriptors, different types of damage, confusion, fear, and injury, and how you can recover them with rolls. Then we've got the ranges for combat. We've got flyer purposes, so cargo vehicle, civilian and military, and then the effects of sizes from lumbering and to capable and then graceful. And then we have some examples of difficulties for different typical tasks, ranging from simple, which is difficulty 0, to epic, where you need 5 successes. Then finally, on the last page, we have a summary of different titles in Barsoom and what they refer to. We have Barsoomian distance measure, so a SOFOD is an imperial 11.694 inches. Interesting. An ad is 10 SOFODs. A HOD is 200 odds. and a Karad is 100 Hads, or 36.92 miles. So there you go. Barsoomian Day is slightly longer than an Earth Day because it's 24 hours and 37 minutes long. Then we have some other measures of time here. Then we have different effects and their cost in terms of threat. So if the narrator wants to spend threat, how much you need to spend to get the corresponding effect. And then we have the total renown total for a character and its effects on reputation. So, yep, all the key stuff you need to run the game is basically in there. And you've got these lovely images on the flip side. So the map of Barsoom on those two panels on the outer side. And then a larger scale version of the action-packed art from the core book here in the middle two panels. So a really nice, clearly extremely sturdy GM screen. I mean, it's really lovely and thick. More so even than some other GM screens that I've gotten from Modiphius. So there you go. That's everything that I've got for John Carter of Mars, or JCOM, as it's so lovingly known by the fans. I'm really impressed with the overall package. I think, it's a setting I know very little about. But just, flipping through these books over the last 3 videos, I've gained quite a bit of knowledge and understanding about what the setting is supposed to evoke. I think the makers of the game clearly love this set of fiction that they've been working with. Their appreciation of it comes through in all these products, and there's definitely a heck of a lot of material to work with. I mean, you could clearly run a campaign pretty easily with what they've given you right from the start, and running an adventure as a pickup game, even with no prep, would be really easy, especially if you've got the narrator's toolkit, plus the materials even just in the core book. I mean, you could just pick up, generate a Swords and Planets pulp type plot with a dastardly villain and just go at it for an evening. So I think that's fantastic. So that's the end of my look at JCOM. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you found it useful. If you do have the inclination to try a bit of Swords and Planets action at your role-playing table, I do strongly recommend you take a look at this. I think particularly if you're working with role players who are kind of beginners or not big on super crunchy rules, this game really hits a nice sweet spot where there's enough detail and sort of variety in character creation that you can have some fun with it, but nobody's going to feel overwhelmed by the rules density. If you want a bit more complexity in your 2D20 games, then you can move on from this to something like Star Trek Adventures, which I'll cover at another time, which is a really great game, by the way. So yeah, if you're looking for some action on a pulp version of the planet of Mars, aka Barsoom, take a look at JCOM, and let me know what you think in the comments. If there's any questions you have about the system, or about any of the things I've shown, of course, hit me up in the comments. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. All right, take care, and bye-bye.